Welcome, founders. Web3, Web3 and crypto. These are topics that I think every founder should entertain or at least think about. But often I've had founders and people, experts in the industry, come to me and they say, Web3, like, what is the purpose of Web3? Why is it important? What problems does it solve, etc.? Well, we've got a special guest here for you today. Web3 Daily is the startup. And as you can read right here, Web3 and crypto news translated into plain English. I got one of the co-founders, Seb, here, and we're going to have a real, I believe, it's going to be a fascinating conversation because this is an email newsletter. Here's your too long did not read. Plug, plug, plug. Sign up for your newsletter. I subscribe. I read Web3 daily. The reason I do it is because of the format and just how easy it is to process, because you can go down a never-ending rabbit hole. I've spent hours upon hours watching YouTube channels and reading white papers, and all these things. And the Web3 crypto space is expanding. It is exploding. And here we have a solution to the problem, Web3 Daily. Welcome, Seb. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so start off, tell me, what is Web3 Daily?
Yeah, awesome. So as we say pretty clearly on the kind of the homepage there, Web3 and crypto news translated into plain English. The idea being that, that there are so many crazy terms and acronyms and different things, NFT, DAO, wallet, protocol, all these different things. And some people can talk about that perfectly fine, casually, but I believe, and I think is the case, that most people are not that way, and I've lived in San Francisco the last couple of years, just moved down to San Diego. So it's very much a little bubble. People in this industry do get stuck in this little bubble and start thinking, oh no, everyone understands, these different terms. But actually, we're really we really truly believe that language certainly shouldn't be the barrier to getting into this space. And so, yeah, we've basically created the very first product is around is a newsletter. And we, use analogies and really simple terms and things that people probably understand either from their childhood or, just pop culture, basically. And then we relate them to, Web3 concepts and try to explain the Web3 concepts, in, as we say, plain English.
You're absolutely right. I saw a headline the other day, someone saying NFT to them stands for no effing thanks. Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so let's talk. What is Web3? What is crypto in your words? So let's practice this plain English. What is Web3? What is crypto? What is the difference? And why should we care?
Cool. So Web3 encompasses, I use the word Web3 to encompass sort of all. It's a pretty general term, and it's mostly focused around sort of blockchain technology, blockchain being the underlying technology. Crypto is one element of that. NFTs is another element of Web3, and same with DAOs, and there's lots of different areas that things that exist within Web3. But I think of Web3 as a sort of all-encompassing term. Crypto and cryptocurrencies themselves they built on blockchains. They may power there may be digital currencies like Bitcoin, which is sort of the most famous digital currency in the original, and then there's sort of Ethereum, which powers decentralized apps and things like that. So yeah, that's I don't know if that was necessarily plain English, but that's
But why should we know? Like, why should I get to know what Web3 and
why should you
crypto
care? Yeah. That's a good question, because so as I was saying, publicly we say Web3 and crypto news translated into plain English. Internally, we talk about how we exist, and our mission is to kind of onboard more people into the world of Web3 and to excite them about the future of blockchain technology, about the future of Web3. And that second part of our sort of mission statement is really, really important. Being excited about what you do is super important, I believe. And blockchain technology and Web3 is having an impact. It's already, like we're at the early adopter stage, basically. And it's already, having an impact on like almost every industry that I can think of. My personal belief, I can't, my personal belief is that it's going to impact all everyday life all the time, over the next couple of years and indefinitely until the next latest and greatest technology comes about. But I think it's super important to, at the very least, if you don't deeply understand it, at least have a grasp on what this innovation is. We're at a technological sort of inflection point right now, and that's why we've, one of the reasons why we've created Web3 Daily is to really just help people have that very first little dip their toe in the water as to like understanding what this concept is.
You're 100%. If I had to break it down, I'd explain it this way. Since, we're both part of the startups.com online accelerator community. And, if you look at trying to be innovative and stay on the trends, Web 1.0 was all about information. Can you get information online? Can you pass it along online? Holy shit, I sent an email. Holy shit, I can go read something. I can create a web page. And it was all about the eyeballs. And I remember those were some crazy times, like total cowboy days, right? I remember flying from, I'd say, Silicon Valley to Silicon Alley on a regular basis. And then that, bubble pops. And then Web 2.0 is all about social. So it was, the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the video sharing and social media, everything like that. So it's all about relationships. So Web 1.0 information, Web 2.0 relationships. For me, Web 3, I'd like your opinion on this. To me, Web 3 is all about two things. It's a deeper experience, but it's also about ownership. And that's the allure of blockchain. Totally. Now, full disclosure, 80% of my investments are all in blockchain, all in something to do with Web3, because I believe, decentralization, everything like that, that's the future. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, but I'm pretty big on Bitcoin being the apex predator that's going to, be the cryptocurrency of the future, or it's just going to, maintain its stance, the Bitcoin dominance, if you will. But for me, it's all about ownership. We now can all own a piece of our digital assets and, what have you. And Web3 and crypto built on blockchain and sharing. So I can own my computer and contribute the computing power. I can be a block on the blockchain and have ownership and control of that. To me, that's the future. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Decentralization, super, that's fundamental to Web3, and owning our own data. One thing which I'll just add or elaborate onto the kind of the concept of, Web 1, absolutely, as you say, like one directional, basically text-based, all that sort of stuff. But Web 2, which is kind of where we've been the last, I don't know, say 15-ish years or something like that, is huge companies owning user data, essentially. So Facebook, yeah, of course, or Meta, it's free to browse on Instagram, free to click on different things and write your updates and things like that. But ultimately, it's owned by that company, being Meta, or maybe it's Google or whatever, and their business model is through essentially selling that data through advertising. And and allowing companies to target and pay for targeted ads. So Web3, owning your own data or being able to take control over your own data, like that's super, super important. That's like a fundamental shift, and it's going to be really interesting. As I was saying, like we are still pretty early, like very early. Like, of course, there's amazing innovations going on. I literally read, like my whole job is reading about what the innovations are, like every single day, and thinking about them and writing about them. obviously talking with my co-founder Chevy as well, and coming up with the different insights and the ways that we can sort of add value to our audience, like for our audience, based on a specific concept. But yeah, I think that it'll be fascinating to see where things go, but the concept of sort of decentralized apps and users owning their own data, super important.
It's going to be big. And if you're a founder or an entrepreneur, you have to know this stuff, because it's no longer about, it might not be right now. Like, for example, you create an app, AWS is the game in town, right? Might not be about AWS anymore. You might be putting stuff on the blockchain, etc. So this is important. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a little exercise. We're going to put you to the test. All right, Seb. So I'm going to rip off these headlines. And these are, right from your website. I'm going to rip off these headlines, and you're going to basically translate it into common English. Anybody watching this, we're going to have some discussion, and let's talk about what the implications are for founders, entrepreneurs, people in general. Cool. Let's start off with this one. Digital privacy advocates are deeply concerned about the Tornado Cash ban. What is Tornado Cash? What's the ban? What's digital privacy? Give me the scoop.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So Tornado Cash is a super interesting concept. It's we've written about this pretty extensively. We've kind of broken it down. And by the way, anyone can see all of the past articles, obviously for free and on our website, just at any time. But Tornado Cash is really interesting. It's basically this idea that it's a service to allow anyone who wants their transactions to be basically essentially completely untraceable, and what they do is they will take your whatever it is, Bitcoin or something like that, some specific cryptocurrency. Let's say you've got $1 million in crypto, and then they will disperse it into all sorts of different other currencies, like other cryptos, in microtransactions all over the place. Then they will ultimately bring it all back together and then transfer it back to you in a lump sum. And why that's important and why that's interesting is that if we look at so another wonderful thing about the blockchain is that everything is tracked, but this is like a positive and a negative. And sometimes there are real situations where you may not personally want your finances to necessarily be tracked, not because you're doing anything illegal or anything by any means, just for your personal privacy reasons, or it might be a foundation where they do want them to be tracked. So there are different situations and different types of organizations. But basically what's happened is that the US government decided, nope, Tornado Cash, don't like this idea. This is only going to be used for negative reasons. It hurts I don't know exactly what it does. Hurts the economy. I don't know. Hurts the financial model that the government is used to, basically. And so they banned Tornado Cash. Now, Chevy actually wrote this article yesterday. So by the way, Chevy writes a couple of the articles. Chevy generally writes 2 articles. I write 1 article, and then I'll review his and he'll review mine. And then,
cool.
We've got a little process that we, do, put it all together and schedule it and all that sort of stuff. That's and we're both pretty focused on sort of processes and systems and things like that. But that's a little bit besides the point. So Chevy was saying, we wrote an article about Tornado Cash last week, and he made 2 points why this ban doesn't really have a big impact. Number one, the government can ban Tornado Cash, but it can't really stop it from existing. I love this line. He wrote, "Criminals don't care about breaking the law. It's literally their job. So they're going to continue to use the service anyway," right? So business as usual. And then secondly, copycat services are going to pop up. Other competitors to Tornado Cash are going to come up, and people are going to continue to use them until they're they're banned, and then rinse and repeat. It's going to keep happening because it's an interesting innovation. The article from, I guess, today was about how, I think it's which organization was it? Coin Center, looking to challenge the ban in court. They're saying it violates the First Amendment. But also, I think this is kind of a funny thing. There's someone, anonymous or pseudonymous. What's the word? Anyway, just processed a bunch of transactions through Tornado Cash. Then they sent that to publicly known celebrity wallets like Jimmy Fallon or Logan Paul, CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong. And ultimately, anyone who is found with the money in their account that has been, washed or whatever by Tornado Cash can ultimately be, penalized based on this ban. So this anonymous person is basically showing that this ban really doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't help the situation because Jimmy Fallon, Logan Paul, Brian Armstrong, they didn't use Tornado Cash. They received
exactly
the cash, at the end point. So they're just kind of like highlighting how difficult it is to track these transactions, and so kind of a funny and interesting story. And by the way, they're called mixing services.
Yeah.
Tornado Cash. So yeah, it's a story around mixing services. It's an interesting innovation in this space.
Yeah, and Tornado Cash isn't the only one, but let's pull out the main principles here. It's first is a lot of people, and I argue about this all the time. A lot of people they go, "Oh, Bitcoin is just for terrorists and money laundering and everything like that." It's more trackable than cash, than anything else.
100%.
So you can't, I know when, I'm subscribed to lists. I know when, Bitcoin whales are buying and selling Bitcoin in their transactions and who's, it's
absolutely,
and it's what, all the metrics are there on, you can look at the tokenomics of everything like that. You can look at your blockchain analytics, everything's there. So one, it's very transparent, which is the reason I really like it. But here, Tornado Cash, Tornado Cash is very infamous for when someone hacks, an exchange and they want to go make that money disappear. Well, okay. But, from my understanding and just my little research, and the reason I got into this, I read this article, I said, I need to research it a little more, but a very small percentage of people are using it for those reasons. But yes, you think about the possibilities for tax evasion, money laundering, all those things. It's the Wild West out there. There's your thing on Tornado Cash. Any last things to add on that story?
I think that covers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's another interesting headline right here. And this one definitely got me interested. So forget 10x returns. We need usability. And I think this applies to founders as well, but I know we're kind of getting into that whole crypto space and the different things and getting the alpha and the investments and how can I get returns from crypto and Web3. What's this whole story about and why should we forget about it?
So this is a story where basically managing director of Samsung's investment arm called Samsung Next, he made a statement sort of in the last day or two. Pretty much all of our news is the most interesting and important of the last sort of 24 to 48 hours. So it's never from a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty recent. And basically that statement was a futurist, the end goal for for NFTs, I guess, is a futuristic paradigm in which machines become the primary workforce and are powered by Web3 technologies. And as we say here, that's a great one-liner, but what in the world does that mean? And so pretty much, we broke it down. We said, instead of focusing on 10x returns, the industry should concentrate on the implementation and face the challenge of utility to expand the Web3 ecosystem. So what do I mean by that? Utility is what I believe is fundamental to NFT projects. Art, NFT as art was super, super important as like a sort of almost like onboarding process, people getting excited about, and even like learning about what NFTs are. But I think that we're kind of, and there are still some really amazing projects out there, Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks and all that sort of stuff. Like they are really ultimately art, although they're moving in a really cool direction. And Yuga Labs is one of our favorite sort of projects that we write about pretty often. That's the creators of Bored Ape Yacht Club. But utility is around the idea that, because as we've said, all transactions are tracked and logged on the blockchain. When you buy an NFT, it's known that NFT, NFTs, by the way, are non-fungible tokens, meaning there's no two the same. And so, it's known that someone has purchased that specific NFT, and we can ultimately add, some functionality, or, the word I use is utility to that. For example, we wrote about maybe like a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago, about the founders of a big music festivals. I think it's like Bonnaroo, and maybe I think that they also did Glastonbury or something like that over in the UK. And pretty much they've created this thing called Superfest, where in order to get a ticket, you buy an NFT, like a ticket to the festival. You buy an NFT, you show the NFT, that will grant you access to the festival, but it also gives you voting rights on all sorts of different things, which is super cool. Like, I mean, they've gone really far with it, like location, dates, even like cost of tickets, like artists that are attending. So that's like pushing the boundaries. Like that's a really, really intense one. But there are like, a lot of other examples where it's like, and I went to, NFT NYC just a couple of months ago or whatever. And, oftentimes it was like, in order to get access to our party,
Yeah.
claim your NFT.
Yeah.
And that's like a typical example of utility. And ultimately that's what the, managing director of Samsung's investment is talking about here, is about how, there's lots and lots of use cases. The technical infrastructure exists, but we need to see the innovation and we need to see those things put together in order for Web3 to thrive.
NFTs are infuriating, but so promising. As an artist, I cut my teeth in the world. I wanted to be a comic book artist and an animator. Cool. And I was a comic book artist when it was not cool to be a comic book artist. Like it was nothing like it was today. You go to a comic book convention and it's a whole bunch of, those old fashioned fold out tables, beige, everything's beige, and you got comic book books and you're sitting there on this metal chair, drawing. No one's dressed up in costume. You're almost ashamed, to be there, type thing. But the prospect of art NFTs and ownership and being able to stamp it and say, okay, I created this, that was amazing. But what ended up happening was, first, it's like the first web pages were just brochures online. Like there was no difference from a web page and a brochure that you handed out, right? Then it's like, okay, well, what does it actually do? What can you do with this digital technology? So now sending messages and what have you. So that's the utility. The problem is that NFTs started going through this whole speculation because of crypto. So people started trading NFTs. And so it's all about getting access to NFTs. And who cares what the NFT does as long as you can flip it? Now, I don't know. Question for you. How many NFTs have you bought and sold? Like, how much have you traded NFTs in your day?
Not a huge amount. I was, like sub 20. I got pretty excited about the sort of NBA hot shots and things like that, which was a totally a money grab, but also like didn't understand what was going on at that time.
Yeah,
That was maybe, I don't know, maybe 2018, 2019, maybe 2020 even, 19 or 20, I don't know, something like that. And anyway, yeah, so I don't have a ton of experience trading NFTs because I'm not really excited about, about the, investing in NFTs particularly. I am interested in crypto, like investing in crypto. But I'm not particularly interested in investing in NFTs, but I absolutely love the concept of NFTs with utility. Like, to me,
absolutely.
that makes perfect sense.
So now what's happening, and again, full disclosure, I've never bought and sold NFTs. I've created some NFTs, and we're using NFTs for a crypto game, like a play to earn,
Cool.
type game, which we're exploring the utility on. But I've I've done generally well, buying and trading the crypto of the NFT platforms, right? The protocol, the
Mm,
tokens and things like that. So with the explosion of NFTs on the Ethereum, your ether exploded because people needed Ethereum
totally.
to trade their NFTs with gas prices, et cetera. So it's an interesting
Yeah.
economy. But now what we're seeing is NFTs have to have a utility, or else one, you got to get away from it being an investment. So you don't want the SEC knocking on your door and making it a security. So you put in all the utility, but the different levels and the different ways that they're innovating the utility of NFTs with smart contracts, to me, is incredibly fascinating. Just like you said, we talked about Web3 being about ownership. You can take ownership of the experience and the governance of a festival, how much the tickets are, etc., through NFTs. And that in itself is incredibly valuable. And if you want to flip that NFT because someone else wants access and that control and being able to participate in governance, more power to you, but it's all in the utility. So my question to you is, what are some other, wild and kooky, crazy NFT use cases that you're seeing out there? Because I'm figuring that founders should be
Cool.
talking to you saying, tell me what you're seeing in the industry. I don't have time to research all this, but tell me,
Mm,
what are other companies doing? What are other projects doing? How are they being
yeah.
successful? And what do you think is, a next trend?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that you and I maybe spoke, a week or two ago about sort of move to earn.
Yeah.
And I mean, so it was so funny when I was thinking about this, um, before we jumped on. I was like, I assumed you were going to ask like, what projects are you excited about, and and whatever, and that makes sense. And I was thinking like, what do I actually use every single day, in this space? And there's really not a lot of, of course, maybe like there's like trading like MetaMask or like Binance and things like that, which have come a little bit more into my day to day. But one project is called Steppen, similar to Sweatcoin or Step App. I think there's like, there's a couple of these things. And it's this concept of like move to earn. And basically, I've purchased a shoe, digital shoe, which is an NFT. And, when I walk, it basically like tracks my location, on my phone, and I earn sort of tokens. So that's a really cool thing, and then I can ultimately trade those tokens back, and I can convert them back into sort of Solana or essentially US dollars. Um, and So that's a pretty interesting use case. It's sort of like an NFT tied into an application which I enjoy. I'm excited about. It's healthy. It gets me out of the house. So I think the move to earn sort of concept is really exciting and interesting. And Gosh, we're going to write about, here's a little insight for tomorrow's article. We're going to write something about what happened to Bitcoin's Satoshi. A new token funded film aims to find out.
That's going to be a good
So
one.
it's, yeah, so it's interesting. So basically there's that that is a really interesting thing. I don't know quite, how much utility is associated with that, but ultimately what they've done is they've raised funds through the sale of these tokens in order to fund the actual production of this film. And of course, the film is around, who is Satoshi Nakamoto, who's the pseudonymous creator of Bitcoin, and we don't know who it is. They've stayed, essentially anonymous, which is really, really cool and interesting. So, I think that NFTs paired with utility to fund art or business projects, like startups or music or festivals, like community engaging sort of community experiences, super cool to me. That's a really, really interesting concept. And I think NFTs are a great sort of mechanism to allow that to happen.
It's amazing. It's a wild, wild west out there, but it's a brave new world. And I'm super excited. Yes, I totally support the move to earn. It motivated me to go out and walk. I use Sweatcoin and the
That's
way
great.
it's dovetailing with advertising in the real world and things
Yeah.
like that. Totally revolutionary for me, and it just makes so much sense, right? All right. So let's do two more, because these are the ones I
Okay.
want to talk about. Okay, this was fascinating. I read this and I was like, I'm not going to open up the article because when I see frozen yogurt, okay, I've got different, like froyo, I have different reactions to it. So it's quite the unique metaphor that you're using. Crypto exchanges, we know they're embattled right now, taking a hit, bankruptcy, lawsuits, all these things. So crypto exchanges, the frozen yogurt of Web3. What? I'm talking Chris Pratt. I had the same reaction. So give me the scoop. What's up with crypto exchanges and frozen yogurt?
Awesome. Yeah. So, again, I'll just mention, like, we are almost like freakishly obsessed with systems and systemization of, and we've got systems around the finding the articles, certainly the structure of the articles themselves, and reviewing process and everything like that. And the reason I mention that is because we do play around with the structure quite a bit, but oftentimes we love to start with an analogy, and we love to start with an analogy because, number one, it'll hook you in, to some extent. And we truly believe that what we're writing is valuable. It's just that, if it was a boring headline, you might just scroll right past it. And then number two, it's actually pretty fun for us. So anyway, frozen yogurt stores, they went through their boom, in the as we wrote here, like in the summer, business is good, frozen yogurt, the perfect treat, cold, tasty. We believe it's healthy. But then, like, winter comes, more and more frozen yogurt shops are opening. And then winter comes, and suddenly, there's less appetite for actual, buying the yogurt. There's more competition. And ultimately it leads to just a couple of winners. A couple of frozen yogurt stores will stay open, they'll succeed, whatever. That's great. But some others won't. So that's the analogy. And how do we relate that back to some actual news? So I think it was yesterday or the day before, this company Econex, they announced that they were closing down their crypto exchange part of their business, which is a pretty important sort of piece of news, because they're actually listed, they're publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. And they cited falling trading volume as a problem, as well as intense market condition and low margins. We go on to say, in the last couple of months, blockchain.com announced a huge layoff. Coinbase let go sort of 18% of staff, and they had a loss, and all those sorts of things. But is it actually a bad thing? So, by the way, we start with an insight, then we talk about the news, and then we start with an analogy, then we talk about the news, and we always try to finish with an insight and a valuable insight,
That's smart.
without giving away too much of our secret sauce.
Yeah.
But, we say, like, is this actually a bad thing? And at first glance, it's like, well, yeah, of course, they've decided to close down this, crypto exchange. But and especially, considering that they were saying that there's not enough trading volume, that's suggesting that, lowered trading suggests lowered interest in crypto and that sort of thing. But when you sort of dig a little deeper, or when you really think about it, what they've decided to do, and if you read the article, by the way, it also makes a lot of sense. As in, when I say read the article, we link out to the original article. So all of our articles are based on an original article, which is a much longer, description of the news. They're actually shifting their focus. So they're focusing on another product that they already manage and own and run and operate, which is a custody and asset management business. It's called DigiVault. Its aim is to on-ramp people on-ramp, I think it's like big businesses into crypto. And so that's really interesting. So they're kind of moving away from the sort of consumer side of things, refocusing towards the big business side of things. We finish it off with sort of looping back to the analogy and say, kind of like a yogurt store turning into a members only dining club. It's like, it's still in the food industry. It's just that it's targeting a different niche of customers. So, our conclusion is ultimately, it's not a problem that they've closed down this crypto exchange. It's actually pretty smart by them. They're pivoting, they're changing direction, and they're seeing that there's an opportunity in this other area of their business which is working, and so they're putting their attention and resources there.
And how does that affect the retailer, like the retail investor or the retail holder of crypto?
So there's a couple of things. So if you go onto either Econex's site or I think it's also mentioned within the article, kind of how they're dealing with this. I think they've got until maybe like another week or so to allow people to sort of finish their trading, close out their positions, and then they've got about a month in order to actually withdraw their crypto. And what that means is, maybe we could go back to the frozen yogurt store. Like, people are going to be looking for another store, right?
Sure.
FTX, Crypto.com, Binance, Coinbase. These are other exchanges, and they'll be looking to pick up these customers. I don't know if Econex have done some sort of deal or something with a Coinbase or something like that, but it doesn't appear so. I haven't seen any news related to that. It would be pretty smart for any of those companies that I just mentioned to do that, I think. But ultimately, yeah, they have to pick up and go somewhere else, which is kind of disruptive. But you'd say it's not a great experience, certainly not a great user experience. You don't go somewhere expecting to have to leave and find another company that's offering the same services. But as we say, this is the Wild West. This is the early stages. This is going to happen, unfortunately, for better or worse. Like, there's going to be companies and projects and coins, so many have already failed. That's actually what innovation is to some extent. It's trying things and seeing, if the market, runs with it, and you can achieve that sort of fit. And if not, it's moving in another direction. So, yeah.
I'm saying it to all the founders out there. If you are serious about learning about crypto, Web3, blockchain, learn to custody your own coins. I can't say
Absolutely.
this enough. Do not trust central exchanges. I've seen massive horror stories. I've got stuff in cold storage and wallets and safes. And the only time I'll use an exchange is if I actually have to exchange something, or they've got some type of group, staking mechanism that I want to take advantage of.
Sure.
DeFi, all that stuff. But that's neither here nor there. I think it's important. The reason I bring this up is because it's important to learn about all the ins and outs, and that way you can understand the pain points and where the behaviors and patterns. And just by researching it, you want a degree in economics, go study Bitcoin. Like, it is literally like getting an
Absolutely.
MBA in economics and understanding the reason Bitcoin exists and what have you. I'm so much smarter financially in terms of understanding what inflation is and, all like interest rates, etc., because I started investing in Bitcoin. So highly recommended. Okay, last story. Now it's Shiba Inu. Let me preface this by saying I confess I'm a Shiba Inu 100 millionaire ish.
Okay.
Like 100, like I own hundreds of millions of SHIB.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
And the reason I got in this, because I was just deathly curious. So what was happening? I was in pretty good price. I did not sell. I held because they were doing all these different things. Now I regret it. I probably could have, used it to buy myself some more coffee or some sandwiches, things like that. But Shiba Inu, this was an interesting thing, just had a pump. What's up with that? For all the, let's give out some hopium for all the Shiba Inu holders out there. What's the basis
Cool.
of this story?
Yeah, awesome. Well, let me just start by saying, whilst, just for anyone who doesn't fully understand, whilst you may be a 100 millionaire in SHIB, it is currently equivalent to, and this is on CoinMarketCap, live price, $0.0001594, right? So, so it's not a very valuable coin right now. But as we say, it did have a huge pump. What was it? Maybe, I think it was on about Thursday last week, because we wrote on this story on Friday. And basically we were kind of trying to decipher why that happened. And it's an interesting story. It's kind of a funny one because there's not a really great explanation as to why it happened. There are some theories. There's one theory, but we do explain that in order for the price to be hiked by 30% plus, which is what happened, within less than a 24-hour period. Like, while Shiba Inu, whilst it's a very, cheap coin, per token, there's huge volume. There's
The
massive,
volume
massive
necessary.
volume.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So in order to actually move the needle, it literally requires billions of dollars, or at least hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars, to move it up 30%. So the point is that that is one theory as to why this happened. We don't quite know what inspired that particular move, but the insight here, is and we wrote, here's what's grabbing our attention. Meme coins like SHIB are typically high risk, high reward investments. They're not the sort of tokens you expect to see billions of dollars poured into, especially during a bear market, which is what we're in right now. So a growing appetite for risk within the investment community can often signal market recovery. And for those that are in the business of reading the tea leaves of the crypto markets, we wrote here, this could be filed under positive indicators that we're not all doomed, and things might be bouncing back, or whatever the technical term for that is. But it was a funny story. It wasn't maybe the most exciting of stories, but it was big news on the day. I mean, token going up, one of the sort of, I don't know what it is, top 10 or maybe 12th or something of total market cap. It's absolutely crazy, huge coin going up 30% is huge news in a day. And so that was our take on it. Not investment advice. Don't suggest, I just warn people, please try to understand what the projects you're investing in are. I actually think that Shiba Inu has a really strong community.
It does.
And
Huge.
community is fundamental. It's so important to these Web3 projects.
Crazy raving fans on TikTok. That's the reason,
Yeah.
they had the Shiba Inu challenge. And let me one up your disclaimer here. It's, we're not giving investment advice. In fact, it's bad investment advice. This is the dumbest investment that you are going to make. Only do it if you're morbidly curious. And this is the reason I was like, I'm so curious on what this is all about and how memes move coins, type thing, and how social influence and, how does it interconnect with each other. And one of the big bets that didn't pay off that a lot of people were into were all about coins having to do with helping influencers. Now, there's a lot of rug pulls. And for those listening, a rug pull is when you buy a bunch and you're expecting to make money, and then suddenly everybody who owns it dumps the coin, and then, the price of the coin drops. That's a rug pull. But, there's this big movement towards influencer-based coins, and can influencers have their own tokens, et cetera? And can we use it to spark the creator economy? Well, for me, the fascination was the intersection between a meme and an influencer, a meme coin, or AKA a shit coin, because, that's really, what you're investing into. And how do those two intersect? So I was really curious. And so it's been fun. And let's be real, I'm not expecting to make my money back in any form whatsoever. But to me, the learning experience has been invaluable. And by exploring this and doing, like, reading articles, like, and participating in communities like Web3 Daily and having conversations with founders like yourself, I'm able to better navigate the industry. Even if I'm losing money, say from a personal investment standpoint, I'm gaining so much knowledge and information, not just to advise founders, but also make bets for the future, different business models and what have you. So I can imagine all this that, you're learning. It's got to be a very rich education, and you have to be pretty much a futurist. And, sometimes you're looking in a crystal ball, you don't know what you're seeing, but there's got to be all those effects going on in your mind.
Yeah, definitely. So, our audience is really, really interesting. We set out to, inform and educate people and sort of, as I was saying before, like, onboard more people into the world of Web3. You've heard this term, but you don't really understand what it is. And that is a huge portion of our audience. But then there's a lot of people who read Web3 Daily, and I've spoken to people who work at, not going to necessarily name the companies, but like the biggest, exchanges, and they're quite, important. And they're like, we just read Web3 Daily to just keep our finger on the pulse for, like, important things that are happening, and we're just trying to, like, keep, like, it's just, like, really easy to kind of skim through and make sure that we know if any, important, changes in the law have happened, or, prices have spiked for whatever reason, or some, and we always include, a cool and interesting and fun thing about, like, how, Gucci's accepting ApeCoin or something now and whatever, which is a bit of fun. But we make sure that we include the most important news of the last sort of 24 to 48 hours as well. And so it's not only for people who have never, experienced Web3 or been involved. It is certainly also for people who are actually maybe deeply involved in Web3, and they just want to keep their finger on the pulse and keep, making sure that they don't miss out on some important innovation or news that's happened.
It's curated for me. When you make a promise, you can scan through it in 5 minutes. That is the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just curated. For me, it's become better than scrolling through Twitter and, all this stuff, or having to go through, discussion forums, or, watch an influencer video for 25 minutes as they run through the headlines and what have you. It's about hyper tasking now. It's getting to the information as quick as possible and knowing what to click. So that's where kudos to you. You've done a really great job. I enjoy the product. I recommend everybody, every founder, or anybody interested in crypto and Web3. It's free. Put in your email address and just read it daily, just to get you acclimated to what's going on, or keep the pulse on what's going on. It's great signal research, cuts through the noise, all that good stuff in an entertaining way. Let me let me
Awesome.
ask this final question for you, and this will be the last word. So what's your invitation? Like, how could you help founders as part of startups.com community interested in it? Anybody who could be listening to this, like, how can you help them, or how can even they help you? It's a free newsletter. So
Yeah,
what's the exchange? What's your business model?
de-
What's your invitation?
definitely.
Plug yourself.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Thank you. Well, I'll start by saying that, I am a huge fan of startups.com, the startups.com community. Got a ton of value out of it myself. The Slack group is amazing, let alone the kind of the courses and the tracks and things like that you provide. So just want to start by saying that. And that's a genuinely, hugely important to me. So anyway, I think our business model is we're B2B. We ultimately have companies, pay us to advertise through our newsletter. As I say, like right now we have one product. It is a daily newsletter, Monday to Friday. And you read it in under 5 minutes each day. So any companies that are interested in sponsoring, in putting ads within our newsletters, that would be amazing. If you want to reach out, we do have we're growing really quickly. We have a really, really engaged audience. We get a lot of clicks. We get a lot of replies to our emails. And of course we get we've got a really high open rate as well, which is super exciting. And I think that shows, that we're adding some value to the world. As for the things that I can do for others, I think at a general level, if we can achieve exactly our mission, which is to onboard more people and to excite them about the future of blockchain technology, that is important. If anyone does want to reach out to me personally, individually, more than happy to sort of offer my, some sort of consulting or some thoughts on how their company can maybe transition more towards Web3 or help with some sort of Web3 strategies, especially if it's something related to, some of the topics we've spoken about, like if you're looking to launch an NFT project, like make sure you have some element of utility. It's really, really important, and maybe I can help you to figure out what that is. So, my door is absolutely open. I love helping founders. I may not be, quite at the end of my career. I'm kind of in the first third, or maybe, I don't know, second third of my career. I've had a couple of businesses in the past, but one element of the entrepreneur's journey is that mentorship and that support and helping others within the community to succeed. And I'm a massive advocate of that, as so many other people have helped me to get to where I am today. So more than happy to help people. Please reach out, please subscribe, and please follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well. We're not huge on social media right now, but we're getting there. We're growing. Most important is the mailing list, but those public profiles are pretty important as well. So that's where we're at.
Well, I got a feeling that we're going to be hearing more about you very soon, and I look forward to having you as a regular recurring guest on our discussions to help with startups.com. Definitely going to take you up on that offer to help other founders just understand what that is. We're going to make some connections for you. It's a pleasure to have you. It's been great getting to know you, and I've thoroughly enjoyed our little journey so far. So let's keep it going, Seb.
Love it. Thanks. Take care.